search for a bastion. But on his way, he once again spots Dream.
Dream, oh my gosh, you're back.
Well, Dream actually starts to lead the speedrunner to this strange wall.
Dream, where are you taking me, dude?
Well, he pulls out a torch from his inventory and places it on this specific block. And when he clicks the torch, it reveals a secret passageway all the way to the bastion. What? So, after summoning a secret tunnel, the runner makes his way into the bastion. But let's take a very close look at the loot in this bastion chest. He finds some gold, obsidian, and even a few arrows. But he also finds this potion of slow falling. And while it may appear innocent, this item can't spawn in a bastion chest. Remember this for later. So the runner locates some gold, crafts some ingots, and starts to trade with the nearby piglins. And while all of the items he's getting from the trades are completely normal, the amount of each item he gets are completely fake. Because first, he gets 3 blocks of obsidian, even though the max per drop is only 1. He also gets 6 ender pearls from a single trade, even though the maximum is 4. And he even gets 2 potions of fire resistance, even though there's a max of 1. The runner clearly messed with the loot drops for the piglins to give himself an advantage. So, after collecting all the pearls he needs, the runner builds a portal and heads back to the overworld. Now, like previous runners, this speedrunner completely ignores throwing his eyes of ender like a real speedrunner would. Interesting. Well, do you remember when the speedrunner found a potion of slow falling from the bastion chest? He drinks it, and just watch what happens. He just phased through the floor and fell directly into the stronghold. This guy is crazy. So the runner enters the stronghold, and using a common speedrun technique, he easily locates the end portal room. But there's just one slight issue. After placing all of his eyes in the portal, he ends up being just 1 eye short. So how is the runner supposed to light the portal and head into the end?
Dream, save me, please.
Okay, no way this is gonna work. Oh my gosh, it's Dream. So Dream comes out of the floor and looks at the speedrunner, giving him the final eye of ender that he needs.
So this company recently announced that anyone can make a game without writing a line of code and earn extra income. Well, that's the Sandbox's Game Maker. Simply download Game Maker, create your own imaginary world, publish your game, and see how much players like your game. If they're spending time playing and coming back for more, you're going to earn sand reward based on your game's engagement. Basically, you're getting paid for building the metaverse, and the better the experience, the more you can earn. No coding, no problem. Just create, publish, and watch the engagement and rewards roll in.
And then he disappears. So after collecting the last eye of ender he needs, the runner can enter the end. Now, when the runner spawns in, there's already a few problems. First, he doesn't get the achievement for entering into the end. Secondly, he spawns directly onto the surface instead of an obsidian platform. And lastly, he finds a chest with some extremely overpowered items. And with all of this overpowered loot, the ender dragon doesn't last long at all. This next speedrun begins with the runner mining some wood, crafting a few tools, and locating a nearby village, where he's selecting the first lot of his inventory, he's in survival mode, and he's facing completely straight. But let's take a look at this specific blacksmith. On the surface, it may appear to be pretty normal, but take a closer look at this specific torch. In a real blacksmith, there is always a torch on this wooden plank, but in this speedrun, we can actually see that the torch is on this oak log. This was clearly changed by the speedrunner off camera as a way to mark out this specific village house, because the chest inside contains gold, apples, a prismatic reaper. Wait, what? Those poor villagers. So after destroying an entire family of villagers, the runner needs to find a nearby lava pool to craft a nether portal. The problem is, the runner doesn't see a single lava pool anywhere near his spawn. So the runner decides to open his menu and navigate to the resource packs tab, where he decides to put in a very specific resource pack. Is that X-ray? This guy is literally cheating. Well, the runner applies the X-ray texture pack, and all of a sudden, he can see every single lava pool in the game. This guy isn't even trying to hide that this run is fake. So the runner digs down to the nearby lava pool, and using his water bucket, begins to craft the nether portal. But this guy must be new to speedrunning, because he clearly has no idea how to build this nether portal. Well, the runner turns to this wall and appears to be checking his inventory. But when the speedrunner turns back around, the portal has magically been completed, when clearly, just a few seconds ago, it was nowhere near close to being done. Well, if you play this part of the footage in slow motion, you can actually see that these two items in his inventory switch. Clearly, the speedrunner cut the video, finished building the portal off camera, and pretended like nothing happened. So the runner lights the portal, spawns into the nether, and luckily, things appear to be pretty normal. As his spawn is completely legitimate, he doesn't have any potion effects, and he starts looking for a nearby fortress. But the runner must have gotten tired from running because he magically starts flying? But wait, we can see his hotbar. He's clearly in survival mode. How is that even possible? So the runner flies all the way to the fortress before locating the blaze spawner. But at a first glance, doesn't it appear as though there's far more blazes than would naturally spawn here? Well, if you take a closer look into this part of the fortress, you'll actually notice this floating blaze spawn egg in the air. And you can also see these strange particles floating around that very egg. And if you move ahead a few seconds to when the runner is leaving the fortress, you can actually see that a player is holding this egg after his invisibility potion ran out. It's pretty obvious he's the one who spawned this unnatural amount of blazes. So, with all of these blazes, it's fairly easy for the runner to collect 7 blaze rods, where he then begins to search for a nearby bastion. And he actually manages to find one pretty normally. There's just one slight issue. This bastion is located on the complete opposite side of this huge lava pool. And because the runner does not have any ender pearls, how is he supposed to get there? Well, the runner casually just starts walking on the lava. Is that even a Minecraft feature? So the runner enters the bastion, and thankfully, his trades with the piglins appear to be pretty normal, as all the items he collects are completely legitimate. But now is a good time to take a closer look at the timer the speedrunner has had going the entire run. While it may appear to be innocent, this is yet another way the speedrunner is cheating. Because let's compare 5 seconds of his timer to 5 seconds of a real timer. Look, his timer is actually moving way slower. He's literally using a slowed down timer to get a faster time for his speedrun. So, after collecting all the pearls that he needs, a normal speedrunner would likely build another portal and head back to the overworld. The problem is, the runner doesn't have enough obsidian to build a nether portal for himself. Well, he starts running in a random direction until he actually stumbles across a fully built nether portal. But hold on, if we rewind the footage, we can actually see this nether portal being built right before he gets there. This was clearly built by the same friend we saw spawning blazes earlier in the run. So the runner enters the portal, heads back to the overworld, and begins to search for the strongholds. And using a popular technique known as triangulation, he locates the strongholds and enters the end portal room. But this is where things get weird. The runner finishes placing his eyes in the end portal, but for some reason, it looks like a nether portal. And when the speedrunner jumps in, is he in the nether? In the end? What am I even looking at here? He's literally in the end, but every single block is like the nether. That portal must have been very cursed. Well, do you remember when earlier in the run, the speedrunner got the prismatic reaper? Well, he pulls it out and the ender dragon doesn't last much longer. This next speedrunner spawns in directly next to a ruined portal. Suspicious, but considering his spawn seems fairly normal, we can say it's legit. However, the loot inside this ruined portal chest is a different story, because scattered among the obsidian and gold is an item that isn't possible to spawn in this chest. This piece of blackstone. And while it may appear incredibly innocent, this one block will be extremely important part of the speedrun very soon. Now, even though the runner spawned directly next to a portal, without enough obsidian, he's forced to look for a nearby village. And while the village looks completely normal on the surface, there's one small detail which reveals there's something incredibly suspicious going on. Because look very closely at this village light post. A normal village light post contains 4 torches, one on each side of the block. But in this speedrun, one of the torches has been mysteriously missing. And once the speedrunner notices this, they decide to dig straight down under it, leading them to a fully completed nether portal. It's pretty obvious they broke one of the torches to remember a ruined portal was under this specific lamppost. So the runner enters the portal and heads into the nether. And without scanning or doing any speedrun technique, they somehow manage to locate the bastion almost immediately. But rewind the footage to when they first spawned in. Take a close look at this lava pool. If you look closely, you can actually see that it creates the shape of an arrow. And this arrow points to the exact direction of the bastion. The runner clearly messed with it before recording to point themselves in the correct direction. So after collecting 16 ender pearls, a normal speedrunner would then search for a nearby fortress. But this speedrunner oddly decides to start building a nether portal, even though he hasn't been to a fortress and has 0 blaze rods. Well, instead of using flint and steel to light the portal, they decide to use gold? How is that even possible? Well, the speedrunner enters it and they spawn directly into a fortress. Since when did they add a fortress portal into Minecraft? So the runner finds the blaze spawner where they collect 9 rods very quickly. They then build a normal nether portal and head back into the overworld. And using the process of triangulation, they locate the stronghold and enter the end. Well, do you remember when earlier in the run, the speedrunner found this blackstone block in the ruined portal chest? Well, he uses that very block as the final piece to crafting the super infinite matter sword, which deals over 128,000 damage with one swing. And the ender dragon stands no chance against this weapon. This next speedrun begins, but there's already something fake. Because look to the left of where the speedrunner spawned in, where you can see a sign displaying the singular number 3, clearly placed by the speedrunner. Keep this in mind for later, as it's not the first number we'll see throughout the run. So the runner enters the village, where he starts collecting hay and breaking some beds. But when the runner goes to kill the iron golem, notice how it isn't actually attacking him back. And if you look closely into the distance, you can actually spot a second iron golem in the exact same village. He likely spawned in his own iron golem in creative mode to make it easier to kill, as iron golems built by players can't fight back. So the runner then goes to loot this village chest. And while the items inside seem fairly normal on the surface, if you take a closer look, the loaves of bread actually make the shape of the number 7. That's the second number we've seen in the speedrun, and don't forget it, as there's more coming up. So the runner crafts himself a bucket, gathers some wood, and begins to search for the ruins portal. Now, pause the footage at this moment, where we can clearly see that the ruins portal contains 8 pieces of obsidian. Now, the runner turns to the side and kills the rabbit for some food, but when he turns back to face the portal, there's magically been a piece of obsidian added, as there's now 9 blocks instead of 8. And of course, the chest contains 1 obsidian, the perfect amount to finish the portal. But how did a piece of obsidian get added to the portal? Well, let's go back to just a few seconds earlier, when the speedrunner killed the rabbit. If you put the footage in slow motion, you can actually see that there was a cut in the video, as the player magically teleported slightly to the left, which allowed the speedrunner to go off camera, place the extra piece of obsidian, and pretend like it never happened. So the runner enters the nether, and giving them the benefit of the doubt, the spawn seems completely legit. There's only one issue. When he's making his way to a nearby fortress, take a very close look at this wall, where the number 8 can actually be seen in the wall. Remember this number along with the 3 and 7 we've seen earlier in the run. Now, the runner enters the fortress, finds the blaze spawner, and gets 7 rods pretty normally. He then makes his way to a nearby bastion, where he finds an abnormal amount of piglins, way more than can naturally spawn. And when the speedrunner accidentally hits a piglin, they don't become hostile and don't attack him back. Something that's impossible, as piglins will always become hostile after you hit him, meaning the runner changes game mode to peaceful off camera. So, the runner gathers his Eyes of Ender and leaves the nether. Now, when the runner spawns into the overworlds, take a very close look at this tree, where for the 4th time, we can see a number mysteriously in the speedrun. This time, the number 3. All these numbers will make sense very soon. So, the runner throws his Eyes of Ender and locates the strongholds. And when he enters into the end, here's where things get weird. When he spawns in, he's greeted with a very strange looking chest. And when the runner tries to open it, he's given the option to enter a password. Well, throughout the run, we've seen the speedrunner come across 4 distinct numbers. First, we saw the number 3 on a random sign. Then, loaves of bread made the shape of a 7. He then saw the number 8 in the wall in the nether, and he saw his final number as leaves in a tree. So of course, there's only 4 possible numbers that could be the password to this chest. And when the password's successful, the runner finds an interesting item, known as the Hammer of the Storm, which gives the runner the ability to summon lightning at any moment he wants. Yeah, that item's way too overpowered. This next speedrun begins, and there's already something off. No, it's not his spawn, as he's facing completely straight. And it's not even his hotbar, as he has 0 items in his inventory and he's in survival mode. But look into the left corner of the screen. You can spot a bonus chest. The problem is, we clearly saw the speedrunner had this option disabled when he generated his world. This means that the footage of him loading into the game and his spawn are actually 2 different clips edited together. This will make more sense very soon. So, the runner starts off by breaking some wood, crafting tools, and locating some buried treasure, where he collects some gold and iron, fairly normal loot. But he then finds a suspiciously convenient ruins portal directly next to his spawn. And while the loot in the chest seems to be fairly normal, this seed seems slightly familiar. Well, after a bit of research on the official speedrun.com website, look at the second fastest speedrun ever attempted by the runner No Fear 1337. And if we take a look at the spawn, notice how it's exactly the same as this speedrun. The buried treasure is also in the exact same location, and the loot is completely identical, meaning the speedrunner took the seed from this world record run and used it to gain an advantage. Hence why he had to edit together his world generation to make it seem real. So, the runner finishes the portal and spawns into the nether, directly next to a bastion. And while that may seem very suspicious, that isn't what's fake about this part of the speedrun, because take a closer look at the zombie pigman to the right of him. If you put the footage in slow motion, you can see that there was a slight cut in the recording, as this zombie pigman jumped completely forward in time. But why was there a cut? Well, notice how the speedrunner has suddenly acquired an iron pickaxe in his inventory, when just seconds earlier, we can clearly see that this same inventory slot was not an iron pickaxe. He clearly cut the video to get an iron pickaxe in creative mode, as he knew you couldn't mine gold blocks in the bastion without an iron pickaxe. And what's even funnier is he literally had enough iron to craft the pickaxe normally, but still decided to cheat. So, using this pickaxe, he enters the bastion and successfully collects 27 gold ingots. But this is where things start to get interesting, because it appears as though the piglins are making trades without any gold being in their hands. And what's even weirder is that we can clearly see the runner still has 27 ingots in his hotbar, meaning he hasn't even dropped any for the piglins to trade with. So how are they making trades without any gold in their hands? Honestly, I have no idea, and I don't even want to question it. So the runner gets lucky with his trades and collects 16 ender pearls out of thin air. Now, a normal speedrunner would then make his way to a fortress to collect blaze rods, a crucial item in crafting Eyes of Ender. But this speedrunner decides to ignore fortress and instead build a portal heading straight back to the overworld. This seems very weird, but it will make sense in a few seconds. So the runner spawns back into the overworld, but randomly decides to craft a bow and sail in a random direction until he finds a fortress? In the overworld? How is that even possible? Well, now it's clear why he didn't bother looking for one in the nether. So, he enters the fortress, finds the blaze spawner, and collects 7 rods fairly easily. He then crafts Eyes of Ender and starts throwing them in hopes of locating the strongholds. And to nobody's surprise, the eyes point to the strongholds being directly under the fortress. So, the runner digs down, enters the stronghold, and starts to search for the end portal room, which he seems to find extremely quickly. Very bizarre considering he didn't use any techniques for locating the room like a real speedrunner would. Well, rewind the footage to when the speedrunner first entered the strongholds. Notice how the block on top of some of the doors is slightly thinner than blocks on other doors. This thinner block is known as a stone brick wall, not a regular stone brick. And if you replay the footage, notice how the speedrunner only enters doors with this thinner block on top. These were clearly placed off camera by the speedrunner as a way to direct him in the path of the end portal room. So, the runner places his Eyes of Ender and teleports into the end. Now, instead of immediately going for the dragon, or even trying to break the crystals, the speedrunner claims to have a brand new strategy to kill the dragon. And I'll let him explain.
Okay guys, there's a brand new feature they just added called the Secret Dragon Vault, and we're gonna go loot it right now.
Okay, well last time I checked, this isn't a real feature. Why is he actually breaking the obsidian? Oh my gosh, it's actually real. So the runner enters one of the most overpowered secret vaults I've seen in Minecraft. Full netherite armor, a chest filled with god apples, and the strongest bow in all of Minecraft. And with this loot, the Ender Dragon doesn't last much longer. This next run begins and take a very close look at the world generation. In a real speedrun, the screen must show this box being completely filled in. But in this speedrun, you can see him cut the footage before the box is completely finished. So when he spawns directly in front of a village, we know the speedrunner is using a set seed and tried editing the world generation to make it seem real. But giving the speedrunner the benefit of the doubt, everything looks fairly legit during his spawn. He has 0 XP, he selected the first slot in his hotbar, and he doesn't have any items in his inventory. But take a close look at the loot in this village chest. There's iron, there's some apples, and a villager rocket. I'm pretty sure this isn't a real Minecraft item. So the run continues with the speedrunner making his way to a nearby ruins portal. But notice how he passed several rose bushes on the way, which is impossible as rose bushes can't spawn in plain biomes, the biome that the speedrunner is in, meaning the speedrunner planted them off camera to lead him straight to the location of the ruins portal. So he opens the chest where he finds some iron and obsidian, pretty normal loot. But he also finds a lever, which is impossible as levers can't spawn in village chests. Remember the lever for later. So the runner grabs the obsidian from the chest and completes the nether portal. Now, you probably didn't even notice it, but the speedrunner actually just cheated. Because look, just a few seconds ago when the speedrunner opened his inventory, we can clearly see there is not a single flint and steel anywhere in his items. But we can clearly see he used flint and steel to light the nether portal. So how did he get it? Well, if we slow down this part of the footage, we can notice a slight cut happen in the recording. Likely, the speedrunner then went off camera and got a flint and steel in creative mode. So he enters the nether, and the first thing you'll notice is that the lava is already flowing. Lava cannot start start floating until someone spawns into the nether. And because the lava has already flowed all the way down, we know the speedrunner had already entered the nether off camera. And this is confirmed even further when the speedrunner doesn't get the achievement for entering into the fortress. The speedrunner then randomly gets a fire resistance effect, even though he never had one in his inventory. And this is likely to help him out with fighting blazes, where he gets a respectable amount of rods. Now, in a normal speedrun, runners would then travel to a bastion where they would trade with piglins to collect ender pearls. But I guess I may have missed an update because first off, I don't remember gold blocks spawning in a fortress. And secondly, I definitely don't remember there being a piglin spawner instead of a blaze spawner. This guy can't stop cheating. So, he uses the gold he got from the fortress and trades with the piglins to get ender pearls, where he slowly makes his way back to the overworld. Now, this is where normal speedrunners would begin throwing their eyes of ender, hoping to locate the stronghold through a process known as triangulation. But this guy seems to have a different plan. Do you remember when the speedrunner got a lever from this village chest earlier in the run? Well, I guess this is the new method for getting to the strongholds. So he finishes the portal, but notice how the speedrunner doesn't spawn onto an obsidian platform like a real speedrun, but spawns directly onto the surface. And also notice how the ender dragon seems to have already lost some of his health before the speedrunner did any damage to it. Now, the only possible explanation for this is that the speedrunner has already been to the end and simply didn't include it in the recording. And he almost would have gotten away with this until you look very closely into the corner of a screen where a single ender pearl can be found on the ground, likely from the speedrunner killing an enderman off camera and forgetting to clean it up. Now, in a normal Minecraft speedrun, the runner would likely kill the dragon with beds, maybe even a bow, but I think it's clear this is anything but a normal speedrun. Do you remember earlier in the run when the speedrunner got the villager launcher? So he equips it and dies while killing the ender dragon. How can you be this bad while cheating? This next speedrun begins, and at a first glance, everything appears to be pretty normal. He's in survival mode, he selected the first slot of his inventory, and he has 0 XP. But take a very close look at the area surrounding him when he spawns in. In a real Minecraft speedrun, your character will always spawn parallel to the surrounding blocks. But in this speedrun, you can clearly see that the speedrunner is actually facing diagonally. This all means that the speedrunner has already generated this world and the loading screen was fake. So he makes his way to a nearby village where he gathers some hay and gets some beds. He then opens this chest that contains some pretty interesting loot: apples, bread, and 3 diamonds. Now, you may not even realize it, but some of this loot is completely fake. A diamond is only able to spawn in one specific village house, a blacksmith. But rewind the footage to just a few seconds earlier, where we can clearly see that this house is not a blacksmith, meaning the speedrunner placed the diamond himself in creative mode to get an advantage, because he uses these very diamonds to craft himself a diamond destroyer. That thing is powerful. So the run continues with the runner looking to locate a ruins portal, and he happens to find one pretty quickly, which seems awfully suspicious. Well, rewind the footage to just a few seconds earlier, where if you zoom in on this specific tree, do you see how it makes out the shape of an arrow with its leaves? This was clearly created by the speedrunner as a way to remember which direction the ruin portal was located. So he loots the chest at the ruin portal, which contains 2 obsidian obsidian, fairly normal loot. The only problem is that means he's just one block short to complete the portal. So how is he gonna travel to the nether? Well, the speedrunner pulls out a dirt block, places it in the final slot for the portal, and this guy's dumb. This clearly is not gonna work. How did that work? I'm not even gonna try to explain how he did that. So the runner spawns into the nether and things seem fairly normal. He's still in survival mode, he doesn't have any potion effects, and he starts searching for a fortress. But pause the footage at this frame, where the speedrunner opens his inventory, where we can spot a singular fire resistance potion hidden in the corner. But look, just a few seconds ago when he spawned into the nether, he clearly didn't have this potion in his inventory. Well, if you actually place this part of the footage in slow motion, you can actually see that there was a clear cut in the video as the lava completely jumps forward in time, meaning the speedrunner cut the video and got the fire resistance potion off camera. So, using this potion, it's extremely easy for the runner to kill blazes and get 7 rods. Now, a normal speedrunner would then make his way to a bastion to collect ender pearls, but this speedrunner decides to head straight back to the overworld. Interesting, and it will make sense soon. So, the runner spawns in, but without ender pearls, it's impossible for him to locate the stronghold. Well, he finds a nearby village and opens a chest with pretty normal loot. Bread, iron, and a waystone? There's no way this is a real Minecraft item. So he gets the waystone, places it down, and when he clicks it, teleports straight into the stronghold. Is that even possible? Now, even though the runner managed to get to the stronghold, he still doesn't have any ender pearls to complete the portal. So he opens this chest, and while it may appear as though these are completely normal items, one item in particular isn't able to spawn in this chest, the lever. And it's clear the speedrunner placed it there himself because he uses this lever for something very specific. To turn off the lights? Is that even possible? So the speedrunner waits until exactly 1 minute has passed before the lights turn back on. And let me know if you can see what's different about the world. Well, compare the end portal from before and after the lights have been turned off. It's been completely filled in, meaning the portal was filled by someone else while the lights were off. So the runner jumps in the portal, but finds an unsuspecting guest when he spawns into the end. Is that Herobrine? Things just got scary. So Herobrine types in the chat demanding that the player throws every single one of his items into the void as a sacrifice. So probably scared out of his mind, the speedrunner complies and gets rid of all of his items. And after the sound of the lightning strike, the Ender Dragon has been mysteriously killed. Was it Herobrine? I guess we're never going to know. So this next speedrun begins and take a very close look at the world generation. In a real speedrun, the screen must show this number reaching 100%. But in this speedrun, you can see him cut the footage at 98%. So when he spawns right in front of a village, we know he's using a set seed and edited the world generation to make it look real. But giving him the benefit of the doubt, everything looks legitimate at a first glance. He doesn't have any XP, he's in survival mode, and doesn't start with any weird items in his inventory. Until you look closer at the roof of this village house, which has clearly been marked by the speedrunner with this slightly different colored stair, to mark out the fact that this house has a chest with bread, apples. Wait, is that a rocket launcher? Remember this for later. So he leaves the village and begins his search to find a lava pool to build a nether portal, where he suddenly stops and digs straight down at this random block, magically leading him straight to a lava pool. But how is it possible he knew to dig down at this exact block? Well, if we slow down this footage from just a few seconds earlier, you can clearly see the position of the bread and apple pupils in his hotbar switch, meaning there was a cut in his recording, which allowed the speedrunner to go off camera and find the location of the lava pool in spectator mode. So he begins to build his nether portal, but ends up running out of lava with just 1 block short of finishing the portal. But somehow he actually manages to light the nether portal, and I'm not even gonna try to explain how he does that. So he enters the nether and immediately spawns in front of a fortress, but instead of heading straight into it, the speedrunner oddly just stops moving his character and stands completely still while the timer is still running. Let's just take a listen to his audio to figure out what's going on.
Jimmy, get off Minecraft and go do your homework.
I kid you not, he literally changes his tab from Minecraft to Khan Academy and starts doing math equations. You cannot make this up.
5 minutes later.
Anyway, he finally returns to the game and heads into the fortress, where he's able to get 7 blaze rods fairly easily. He then makes his way over to a nearby bastion and ends up getting pretty lucky with the piglin trades, getting 16 pearls very quickly. But that is not what's fake about these piglin trades, because he also ends up getting a compass, something that is impossible to receive from a piglin trade. Now you're probably asking, why would the speedrunner fake getting a compass, because how could that even help him in the speedrun? Well, when he goes back to the overworld and opens his crafting table, he uses this exact compass to craft something called a stronghold finder. And with just 1 click of it, a message appears saying stronghold located, and the compass directs the speedrunner straight to the stronghold. And now it's clear why he made it seem like he got the compass from a piglin. So he finds the end portal room and begins to fill the portal, but ends up just being 1 eye short. But hold on, take a closer look at this block. This block is smooth stone, when in a normal stronghold, this block is supposed to be a stone brick. And when he breaks this smooth stone, he magically finds a chest with the last eye of vendor he needs to finish the portal. He clearly tried to mark out the spot in the chest by using a different block, hoping we wouldn't notice. So the speedrunner enters the end, and here's where things get crazy. You're probably expecting him to fight the dragon with maybe some beds, perhaps even a bow. Oh no, no, no. Do you remember when earlier in the run, the speedrunner got a rocket launcher from this chest? Well, he equips it and... I think the footage just spoke for itself. This next speedrun begins near a village, and honestly, everything appears to be pretty normal. The world generation looks good, doesn't have any XP in his hotbar, and he appears to be in survival mode. But as he goes to loot one of the village houses, he makes a very obvious mistake. He accidentally presses tab and reveals that he's playing with 1 other person, something obviously not allowed during a solo speedrun. But it doesn't stop there, because after getting some hay and looting a few more houses, he forgets to mute his mic, and you can clearly hear him talking to his friend, the same one on the Minecraft server with him. Let's take a listen.
Yo, you put the diamond in the chest, right?
And it's no surprise when he finds this exact diamond in the next village house that he loots. It's pretty obvious he's using his friend to get OP loot. But this isn't the only help he receives in the speedrun, because as he makes his way to a nearby lava pool, he finds a random water bucket on the ground. And this guy has terrible acting.
Okay guys, basically there's a new feature where water buckets randomly spawn, so we're just gonna use that really quick.
But wait, rewind the footage and take a closer look at this tree, where the same friend we hear him talking to is trying to blend in by using a wood skin. I think it's pretty obvious he's the one who dropped the water bucket there. So he uses the water bucket to begin crafting another portal and enters the nether. Now, it would appear that he's traveling in a random direction, but he's actually following these strange particles in the air. And these particles are clearly coming from his friend we saw earlier in the run using an invisibility potion. And this is confirmed when he's unmuted and we can hear him asking his friend to lead him to the fortress. Let's take a listen.
Bro, you're leading me to the fortress, right?
This guy needs to learn how to mute his mic. So he reaches the fortress fortress, kills some blazes, and gets 7 rods. But he doesn't go to a bastion to get ender pearls like in a normal speedrun, because he actually finds an enderman spawner, something that definitely doesn't exist in a fortress. And I'm pretty sure we all know who placed this spawner here. So he heads back to the overworld, and it's time for him to locate the stronghold. But notice how he doesn't actually follow this Eye of Ender that he throws, and actually goes in a completely different direction where he somehow magically finds the stronghold. But he makes a huge mistake you may have missed, because in this frame you can clearly see him using the /locate command, which reveals exactly how he knew to dig down at this block. So he finds the end portal room, but make note of the fact that there are 0 eyes in the portal, which is a problem for the runner because he only has 11 eyes. And because you need 12 to finish the portal, he can't travel to the end. But after the speedrunner loots this chest and turns back around, there's been an eye mysteriously placed in the portal. Now, I would be suspicious of the friend we've seen throughout the run, but there's no particles in the air that would point to him being there. But let's take a closer look. Remember when the speedrunner tried to blend in with the tree earlier in the run? You've got to be kidding me. He's trying to blend in with the wall? Well, I guess we know where that extra pearl came from. So the speedrunner enters the end, but notice how he doesn't have any beds, something very commonly used to kill the dragon. But not to worry, because he finds a building called the bed house. What explanation is he gonna give this time?
Guys, let's just go use the new bed house feature they just added in Minecraft.
Yeah, I bet my life savings that this isn't a real feature. So he goes inside the house where there's a sign saying deposit obsidian, and out comes all the beds that he needs to kill the dragon. While this speedrun was clearly fake, our next speedrunner might be even worse. This next run begins with the runner spawning directly next to a pillager outpost, and everything appears to look normal at first, as the runner's in survival mode, has no XP, and he's selecting the first slot of his inventory. But move your focus to the speedrunner's hunger bar. If you look very precisely, you can actually see that a sliver of hunger is actually missing, meaning the runner has already played on this world before starting recording, and this will make sense in a few seconds. So the runner travels to the pillager outpost and goes to loot the chest, and at a first look it would appear that this chest contains completely normal loot. I mean, there's no overpowered items like diamond blocks or netherite swords, so what's the issue here? Well, among all of the completely normal items is one item that actually can't spawn in a pillager outpost chest, which happens to be this chain, which will not only be extremely important for later in the run, but now it's obvious that the runner placed the chain in the chest himself before recording, which is what caused him to lose that hunger. So the runner leaves the outpost and locates a nearby village, where, giving them the benefit of the doubt, they do some pretty normal things like mining some wood, getting some hay, and killing the iron golem. But let's take a closer look at what happens when the speedrunner loots this chest. Before he enters, take a look at the surrounding area. Got it? So he enters the house, loots the chest, but when he leaves, it's literally nighttime, when just 5 seconds beforehand, it was completely bright and fully daytime. And if you look even closer, the runner has somehow acquired an iron bucket when he clearly didn't have that before he entered the village house. The only possible explanation is that there was a cut in the recording, but where? Well, let's watch this part of the footage in slow motion. Notice how when he stares at this cobblestone wall, he actually moves slightly to the left, and that's where he cut the video, and it's pretty obvious he did that to get the iron bucket off camera, which must have taken a while because the time of day completely changed. So using the iron bucket, the runner finds a nearby lava pool and starts crafting the portal. But watch this part of the footage very closely. Did you catch that? The runner literally fell in the lava pool for a split second, caught on fire, but did not take any damage. And it's very clear he doesn't have a potion effect because the top right corner is completely empty. So how exactly did that happen? Well, take a closer look at the speedrunner's heart and hunger bar. If you look closely, doesn't it appear as though the heart and hunger bar are edited in? It almost looks like it's a screenshot because there's a border around the heart and hunger bar that is a completely different background from the rest of the screen. And to prove this even further, I actually managed to find the exact frame where the screenshot was taken. What does this all mean? When the speedrunner fell in the lava, they were actually in creative mode, which explains why they took no damage. But they put in a screenshot of their hearts and hunger bar to make us think they were in survival. So the runner finishes building the portal and heads into the nether. Now, a normal speedrunner would likely make his way to either a bastion or a fortress to either collect blaze rods or pearls, crucial items for completing a speedrun. But this speedrunner seems to have a slightly different idea. Let's take a listen.
Alright guys, there's basically a new method where you get pearls and blaze rods for completely free.
Okay, I'm gonna be honest, I'm pretty skeptical, but I guess let's hear him out.
Okay, just find the nearest wall and count 4 blocks to the right, and 3 blocks up. There's an invisible chest located at that point. It has everything you need.
Okay, let's all be honest here, there is absolutely no way this actually works. This guy has to be joking.
Alright, 1, 2, 3, 4. Go up 3 and boom. Guys, there's a chest with all the stuff that you need.
I've watched hundreds of speedruns, and let me be clear, I have never seen something so crazy, and I don't even want to know how this guy just pulled that off. So after collecting blaze rods and pearls from an invisible chest, the runner makes his way back to the overworld. And this is where the runner decides it's the perfect time to advertise his YouTube channel, where he puts this obnoxiously large subscribe logo in the bottom left corner of the screen. And following this decision, the runner runs in a very deliberate direction, leading him straight into the strongholds. But how is it possible he knew this location without throwing any Eyes of Ender or using any techniques to locate it? Well, while putting in the subscribe button seems pretty innocent, this was done completely on purpose to cheat in the speedrun, because he puts this logo in the exact same area where commands and chat are located in Minecraft. And if you go to this frame in the speedrun, right after the runner removes the subscribe logo, you can actually see the faint message of a /locate command being used. It's pretty obvious he put the subscribe logo in that specific position to hide the fact he used a /locate command for the strongholds. So the runner enters the stronghold, locates the portal, and enters into the end. But without any bows or beds, how is the runner supposed to kill the ender dragon? Well, do you remember earlier in the run when the speedrunner got this chain from the pillager outposts? Well, he uses that very chain to craft himself something called the punt gun. That thing is literally bigger than the runner himself, and with this weapon, the dragon doesn't last very long. This next speedrun begins, but take a very close look at the world generation. Before you generate a world in Minecraft, you're given a list of all of your previous generations on this menu. And in this player's case, we can clearly see his most recent speedrun occurred at 6:33 p.m., which means any of his next speedruns will occur after this time. So when the speedrunner finally spawns into his world, how is it possible that the time shows 3:07, which is nearly 3 hours before 6:33? Unless the speedrunner traveled back in time, this generation is completely fake, and the footage of him generating the world and spawning in are actually 2 different clips simply edited together. This will make sense soon. So the runner spawns in, and giving him the benefit of the doubt, things seem fairly normal. He mines some wood, crafts himself some tools, and finds a nearby village. But pause. This YouTube video posted by Dream over 3 years ago was his official world record speedrun. And if we play the footage, doesn't the world in Dream's speedrun look oddly familiar to the world in this speedrun? Look, here are both of their spawns, the exact same location. There's also this exact super tall cactus in the desert. And there's also a pyramid in the same location in both speedruns.